Hello, my name is CALERO, and this is my story of becoming Cleft strong. Growing up, the first thing people would typically ask me is, what's wrong with your lip? April 7, 2001, I was born with a facial deformity called a cleft lip and palate. A cleft lip and palate is defined to be the incomplete formation of the upper lip, a cleft lip, or the roof of the mouth, a cleft palate, which is the defect of the 8th chromosome. A cleft lip and palate may be unilateral, meaning one side of the face is affected, or bilateral, where both sides are affected. Thankfully, I was born with a unilateral cleft, so the surgeries that I did have were not as extensive compared to if it were bilateral. A cleft lip and palate may be caused by a variety of different reasons during pregnancy, including genetics, medication use, obesity, and diabetes. In my case, my cleft was hereditary, as my dad has been affected by a cleft uvula. Each case of having a cleft is different, and the effects of having one range among those who are born with it. Not only does having a cleft cause a change in physical appearance, but it can also affect the individual's hearing, nasal cavity, breathing, feeding, and may even hinder speech. Through various attempts to strengthen my lungs, the inability for me to breathe properly through my nose has been a continuous struggle. I also have to be cautious when eating due to a fissure in my mouth, which is a hole just above the lip, as it leads to my nasal cavity. It is also common that a tooth or multiple teeth will be missing at the location of the cleft, so I have a fake tooth on the right side of my face. To this day, I have had a total of 8 surgeries consisting of 6 major and 2 minor repairs. Each surgery supplied me with an immense amount of pain that I quickly had to learn to deal with. My first surgery occurred when I was only 6 months old, and my journey through surgery then had begun. My second through 4th surgeries were similar to the first to correct my upper lip, jaw, and the roof of my mouth. My 5th surgery was a bone graft where bone was taken from my hip and placed into the roof of my mouth. My last major surgery was on July 28, 2015, where cartilage was taken from the back of my ear and placed into my nose in an attempt to create a larger airway, which would benefit my breathing. I suppose one of the best things I could say about having so many surgeries is that my hip is in my mouth and my ear is in my nose. Along with various surgeries, the amount of appointments that I had with my dentist and orthodontist also greatly flooded my schedule. The physical pain I dealt with did not stop after surgeries because the pain in my mouth and the work done in my mouth caused even more. The amount of appointments that I have also greatly impacted my school attendance, so I had to strive harder in my academics in order to keep up with everyone else. Aside from all the oral corrections and surgeries, my greatest struggle with having an uncommon facial deformity was the judgment I received from others and my own ability to accept myself. I've always known that having a cleft makes me appear slightly different from everyone else, and the negativity that others forced on me only made it more difficult. I can recall various times where others have told me repeatedly how unusual my cleft was. My experiences with bullying began in elementary school, as it was obvious I stood out from others my age. And hearing others tell me how unusual I looked or how freakish my lip was discouraged me from loving something that contributes so greatly to my identity. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I'm just going to start over from that sentence. Hearing others tell me how ugly I looked or how freakish my lip was discouraged me from loving something that contributed so greatly to my identity. I remember one time when I was about 12 years old, I was at the orthodontist and there was a long wait, so she had given me a book to read. Since I was an avid reader, I was eager to see what my orthodontist had chosen for me. Okay. I then realized it was about a girl my age who had similar procedures done, and I knew that she had chosen this book for a reason. What surprised me the most was that she even had the same missing tooth, and we had similar procedures. It continued on to discuss how she was able to persevere through various difficulties and in the end grew to love what made her different. Reading this book sparked something inside of me as I realized that I'm not the only one who struggles with this idea of perfection. It became obvious to me that hating myself and something that I couldn't change would not increase my potential, but rather it would hinder it, and it would keep me from the happiness I could not only be utilizing for myself, but it also kept me from sharing the great amount of love that I have from others. With constant encouragement of my mom and other influential individuals, I knew that my smile is not something I should be ashamed of, but rather I should become empowered by it.
Hi everyone, my name is Mrs. Galindo. Crystal was my student when she was in English 2 honors, and I also had the privilege of traveling with Crystal to London, Paris, and Rome during spring break, her sophomore year. And I know Crystal pretty well, and I've asked her if I have her permission to read her speech. I really wanted her to come up here, but I do have her permission. Okay. Hold on, I'm not tech savvy, so there we go. And notice I'm wearing old pairing glasses, so you guys can laugh at me. I also have, oh yeah, I know. I also experienced stage fright. My parents made me take piano lessons when I was little. I absolutely despised them, and I could play perfectly the piano recital at home. And then when I got to the piano recital itself, I sounded like I was in kindergarten trying to just mess around on the piano. So I decided I was going to quit after that. So I know what stage fright was. Okay, here we go. So this is Crystal. I'm starting somewhere in the middle of her speech. I remember one time when I was about 12 years old, I was at the orthodontist and there was a long wait. So she had given me a book to read. Since I was an avid reader, I was eager to see what my orthodontist had picked for me. I then realized it was about a girl my age who had similar procedures done, and I know she had chosen this book for a reason. What surprised me most was that the main character even had the same missing tooth and wore a similar retainer with a fake one attached. It continued on to discuss how she was able to persevere through various difficulties and in the end grew to love what made her different. Reading this book sparked something inside me as it then became obvious that I am not the only one who struggles with this idea of perfection. Each and every one of us have attributes that set us apart from every other person in this world. Instead of considering our differences and imperfections, we should embrace what no one else has. It became obvious to me that hating myself and something I can't change will not increase my potential, but rather it will hinder it and keep me from happiness I could not only be utilizing for myself, but it also kept me from sharing the great amount of love that I have for others. With constant encouragement of my mom and other influential individuals, I knew my smile is not something I should be ashamed of, but rather I should utilize it as a source of power and happiness. I realized the strength I maintain through everything I have overcome should not go to waste, so I used it towards ignoring the negativity that once tried to affect my life. Everywhere I went, I began to smile at everyone who came into sight. And that is true. Every time I see Crystal, she smiles and hugs me. Taking control of my smile gave me the power I needed to feel confident with who I truly am, and I was able to cultivate acceptance towards having an uncommon facial deformity. Not only am I able to increase my own happiness through smiling, but others are inevitably affected as well. Through smiling at others, for however long it may be, we are able to radiate happiness towards another individual. This immense form of happiness began to grow inside me as I started to own my smile. After all, it is pretty difficult to be upset when you're smiling. Every step I have taken to get to where I am at this very moment is different from the journey of anyone else, and I find it quite beautiful. The love we have for others may only go so far if we don't love ourselves. We shouldn't hide from what distinguishes us from others, but become empowered by it. With this being said, I encourage everyone here to take time to acknowledge the things that make us who we are, instead of trying to make yourself or hide away from whatever it may be that you consider a flaw. I'm gonna cry. Carry it close to your heart and embrace it, because no one will be able to experience it the way you did. I'm such a baby. If I had the chance to go back in time and talk to my former self, I would remind myself of the courage it has taken me to persevere. I would tell myself that standing out from others isn't something that should be considered negative. And most importantly, I would assure myself that I am beautiful the way that I am, and no one can ever take that away. Each of us has a story to tell. So why should we hide behind a facade which only masks the power we have inside? Along with loving yourself and your differences, I hope we may all continue to be aware of and accept others for whatever differences they may have in order to increase our emotional wellness and remain balanced. Because of the course, there is no stagnant definition of perfection. Just to finish off with a few statistics, according to an organization called Changing Faces, about 40% of people worldwide have some form of facial deformity. Less than 1% of children are born with a cleft lip and palate. 19% undergo facial reconstruction. 80% have skin conditions varying from acne, psoriasis, or vitiligo. And 1% of us are unique. Thank you for your time. Thank you for being such a great audience.